This conference will now be recorded.
In accordance with NRS 116.31083, this meeting is being audio recorded. A unit's owner may record on audio tape or any other means of sound reproduction a meeting of the executive board unless the executive board is meeting in executive session. The unit's owner, before recording the meeting, must provide notice of his or her intent to record the meeting to the members of the executive board and or other units owners who attend the meeting. Are there any owners who will be recording this meeting? You're welcome to do so. The meeting will also be videotaped and recorded live and uploaded to the website to be viewed later after the meeting. Please take this moment, which will include me, to silence your cell phones as a courtesy to others as we conduct business. Also in accordance with NRS 116.31085, 3 and 6, the board met for their executive session on April 21st, 2026 to consult with their attorneys for any proposed pending litigation the association is involved in, conduct hearings and or review individual resident appeals regarding violations of the governing documents and or delinquent assessments, accounts, and personal matters. We will now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board is complete, so we have a quorum. The first order of business is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting of March 26, 2026. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the March 26, 2026 board meeting minutes.
Do I hear a second?
Second. Sorry. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the March 26th board meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Passed. We now move on to the president's report. I do have a short one. So as we draw close to the election of the board, I'll look back on this year as a success. We have a food service restaurant that is cost effective and blends well into our community, as our community survey clearly stated that we don't want to raise assessments to run the restaurant facility. The prior board was responsible for their coming on board with us, and on our agenda today there is a one-year addendum to their contract. This contract will provide further food services and has potential for a longer-term contract with Masterpiece Cuisine. One of my goals was to realign our income from AEF with the CC&Rs. On our agenda today is a charted capital expense report allocating monies into the board equity fund for projects not yet completed, decided, or started. We are also beginning to identify areas where we can spend AEF funds in lieu of reserve. Our annual financial audit is in today's agenda, and I would like to take this time to introduce a valued member of the audit committee who will be our speaker today on that agenda item, Guy Raymaker, who has been our at-large member of the audit committee for the past 4 years, working with 4 different treasurers of SCA. Guy has extensive background in financial reporting and auditing, including a 35-year career as a partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers in New York, where he was responsible for reviewing and approving all financial statement corrections for PwC. There have been a number of questions about the audit process raised by some of the board members, so we've asked Guy to review the board of the process SCA uses to prepare the audited financial statements. We will have him speak about the committee's report during that motion segment. And that is my president's report for this month. Right now, we will go to the general manager's report. Jessica?
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. I will start with an update on our work groups. Our communications work group meets monthly. The website's been enhanced with improved functionality for residents and a refreshed modern design for the public-facing experience. We do have a Global North Star app that is underway and in development now, and more updates will come soon on that. For facilities and landscape, we hold meetings twice monthly, including a workshop and a formal meeting. During these sessions, all active projects and landscape items are thoroughly reviewed. And for strategic planning, meetings are being held weekly with a strong focus on dividing efforts into two areas, the strategic plan and the long-range plan. A resident kickoff town hall is in the planning stages and is currently scheduled for June 1st, so please be on the lookout for that. I'd like to take just a brief moment and go over some key accomplishments that we have achieved over the past year. Some milestones we'd like to point out, one being the resident e-blast and communication. The Monday Chronicles is something that we send out every week. It's an easy touch point to send important updates out to everyone. So we've refined the format and delivery of those, resulting in a more streamlined and user-friendly experience. Staff culture and morale has significantly improved, and we remain focused on leading with purpose and fostering an environment where accountability and results are both expected and celebrated. Reserve studies, we worked closely with the specialists and key staff to develop updated component lists and ensure accurate long-term financial planning. Insurance, we successfully transitioned the renewal date to July 31st and separated the villas into their own policy, generating approximately $86,000 in premium savings between the villas 2025 and 2026 budgets. The rewrite of the BPM and the CCPM, these policies were revised to better reflect board priorities, reduce administrative burden on board members, and allow greater focus for them on governance and strategic direction. We reduced staff and labor expense through careful roll-by-roll evaluations, accommodating the needs within our existing model, and this resulted in a 2026 staffing budget reduction of $126,000 from the 2025 budget. We revised the employee handbook and created a safety initiative committee. The handbook was updated and the internal committee was established with proactive measures implemented to reinforce workplace safety, OSHA compliance, and organizational protection. Pinnacle had a major gate reimbursement following issues that they had with a major 2024 upgrade. They secured $10,000 in reimbursement from LiftMaster, replaced all 4 brand new operators, and extended their warranty on those as well. Compliance inspections, after identifying and addressing a gap with the process, we have driven meaningful program improvements. While violation notices have increased, so too have the compliance outcomes. I have in here the January update for Masterpiece Cuisine financials, but I'll go over February and year to date, so they're both in here for reference. For February 2026, catering revenue was $28,234, with year to date being $248,581. Total expenses for February, $20,424. That left them with a net profit of $7,810 for the month. Year-to-date total expenses, $219,094, with a net profit of $29,487. For the restaurant, revenue for February, $39,783. Subsidy, $4,800. Expenses, $49,765, with a net loss of $5,182. Year-to-date revenue, $306,791, subsidy of $93,061. Total expenses, $434,167, with a net loss of $34,315. For Vegas catering, year-to-date revenue, beverage income, $74,001. Their total food income, $490,773, and rental income at $30,012. Total year-to-date revenue, $767,801. So for gross revenue year to date for all 3 categories, $1,416,233. For the March website stats, we had 6,500 website visits. We're listing the top 5 pages, and the e-blast in February reached 10,452 email accounts with an open rate of 57.5%. For gallery and facility check-in summaries for March, 1,840 gallery check-ins. The Anthem Center facility check-in, 21,082. Independence, 8,518. Liberty, 8,026. Total check-ins across all centers, 37,626, with a daily average of 1,214. For community standards, in March, the team focused on follow-up inspections, resulting in approximately 120 citations. An additional 187 notices were for weeds and general landscape maintenance concerns. The ARC committee reviewed and processed 73 applications during the period, with 1 denial. And we did implement a seasonal shade schedule for Anthem Center Gallery as a proactive measure to support energy conservation and reduce maintenance costs. For fitness, their featured class is line dancing, Sundays at 3 p.m. The dietitian seminar is building strong bones, Saturday, May 15th. And for March fitness classes, their total offered 247, total participants 3,971, average of 16 per class. And for activities, March gross sales revenue 47,859, tickets sold 1,938. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Jessica. We now move on to the director comment period. I started on this side last time, so I'm going to start here with Forrest today.
No comments.
I have no comments at this time.
I have no comments either, but thanks for coming.
I'd like to add a few comments regarding the restaurant lease addendum. I will remind everybody that a year ago, when we were looking for a restaurant partner, the asset we had to sell was a restaurant capable of catering. That was the plus thing. The minus thing is we had a negative track record on our restaurant history. So we ended up with a caterer, and that's what we have. Though good progress is being made, the jury is still out. And so what you'll see is we're talking about a 1-year extension.
Oh, thank you. And move on to Donna.
Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to see that we have a full audience, almost full audience tonight. So thank you for coming, and thank everyone for being online. I'll save my comments for later.
I don't really have many comments. The one thing that I want to report is the audit report is completed for 2025, and it will be presented to the board today. But other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Thank you, directors. Do we have a report from City of Henderson? I don't see Monica here today. I imagine there is one in the book, but I don't see Monica. We won't have that report today. Anthem Community Council is our person who would report to us on that is Rick Ernest. Is he here today? Nope. So we shall not have an Anthem Community Council report, which is not in the board book anyway. We shall now move on to the member comment period, where members are permitted to comment on agenda items only during this time. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. Residents that use their time to make comments in order to make inquiries of the board of directors may or may not receive responses to those inquiries at this time, but your comments will be noted accordingly. The president may interrupt or terminate a member's statement if it is personal, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or exceeds the time limit. Members online, click the react hand icon or write in the chat if you would like to make a comment. Comments will not be accepted from owners in advance. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. And we shall begin. Member comment period.
My name is Mark Coleman, homeowner,
Village.
and here to support the extension of the contract. Dang glasses. There are definitely people who have lived in Sun City Anthem longer than me, but not many. I've seen the restaurant changes in our clubhouse dating back to the days of trumpets, to to Terzo's, to Vic's, in all the years, there was nothing. We have a very eclectic group of people living in the area, as you all know. There are those who live on unlimited incomes, and there are those who are living on very limited incomes. It is hard to meet all of our expectations. But if we're going to make things work, we must adjust our expectations on what it takes to maintain a restaurant in our neighborhood. Whether we have a 5-star facility or a less expensive establishment, it is not likely any restaurant facility will survive on the hill without some type of financial assistance from the HOA. When businesses talk about the criteria for success, one of the most common statements you hear is location, location, location. Well, a restaurant here on the hill is a great location for all of us who live in Sun City Anthem, but it's not a great location for attracting those who live in other parts of the valley. There are plenty of restaurants throughout the greater Las Vegas Valley and plenty located on Eastern and St. Rose in that area that make it challenging for any restaurant located at our clubhouse to draw patrons from other parts of town. And yes, we certainly may get folks to come here occasionally from other areas, but any successful restaurant needs patrons daily and on a weekly basis. We need to keep in mind that a restaurant here in the clubhouse does not have the foot traffic or business proximity that many other restaurants have in order for them to stay open. And if we're going to be open for lunch, we need to remember a lot of folks from other areas may not want to spend their lunchtime driving to and from our clubhouse, even though we have plenty of people in our area. I give Masterpiece Cuisine a ton of credit for how they opened, because at first I was very skeptical that they could remain open for more than a couple months. There was no way in my mind they could stay in business when they were only open 4 days a week, no weekends, and only 3 to 7 o'clock in the evening. No way. And I admit I was wrong. They've done a great job of opening slowly to ensure they could control costs, staff accordingly, and make a profit. They have found a way to combine catering services along with the restaurant to meet the needs of our clientele. Just as important, they've created a community atmosphere where a lot of locals come to spend time, meet others, and socialize without having to leave the Anthem area. They have created our version of Cheers. We have our own Cheers bar and restaurant. A restaurant in our clubhouse is mainly designed for our community. Without some type of subsidy, it'd be difficult for many restaurant owners or groups who want to come in to our community, knowing that their main audience is pretty much our community. We sit in one end of the valley, not very conducive to attracting folks from all over Henderson and Las Vegas. Again, I'm here to support the extension of the contract. Thank you.
I'm not used to speaking, so you'll have to excuse me if I'm a little nervous. My name is Shirley Zeiner. I'm facilities with the Women's Club. I am here representative of the club. My job is to work directly with Masterpiece Cuisine. My experience in this position spans 11 years, first with Trumpets and then many other restaurants and caterers to provide luncheons for our Women's Club. I've also worked with the M Resort and South Point for special luncheons for our ladies. I feel I have the experience to speak on the quality and service we receive from the caterer. I have received many positive comments from the ladies and occasionally complaints. Each of those I share with the catering and to address any issues. Our ladies are very pleased with the Masterpiece Cuisine. Our attendance has grown from 108 on our first time with them to 160 at our April luncheon. For May, the response has been so great, we are extending our reservation to 200 members. Our club wants Masterpiece Cuisine to remain in Anthem. Please support them by coming to an agreement with a new contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley.
My name is Margaret Carbaugh, and I'm addressing you today as both a resident and a regular entertainer at Masterpiece Cuisine. After 21 years as a resident, I'm a veteran of the seemingly endless restaurant wars that have raged for longer than I can remember. I've always questioned the need for a full-service restaurant in the community. There are certainly no shortage of restaurants in the area, and the odds of one being profitable and successful here have pretty much proven to be slim, if non-existent. But the folks at Masterpiece seem to have figured out a way to make the restaurant a meaningful and viable amenity in the community. As I said, I, along with my partner Carol Joyce, who's also here today, have had the pleasure of being one of the resident-based live entertainment options at Masterpiece. We perform there monthly, as recently as last night. And what we always see is a full bar, a full restaurant, and lots of people eating, drinking, sometimes dancing, sometimes singing along, but most importantly, having fun, interacting with their friends and neighbors, and even better, meeting new people and creating new friendships. Masterpiece has become Sun City Anthem's Cheers, as the first speaker mentioned, where everybody knows your name. And we have even added the theme song from Cheers to our repertoire for every engagement, and the chorus always becomes a sing-along. Amenities are not designed to be profit centers. If they become one, consider that a bonus. I understand there are people who are opposed to the Masterpiece model, but when you make the decision to live in an HOA community, you recognize that contributing to the lifestyle of that community is part of the deal. I've never set foot on a tennis bocce or pickleball court. I've never been in the indoor pool or played any table tennis, but I fully support those that do, realizing that all of those things contribute to the big, beautiful collective spirit that epitomizes Sun City Anthem. Masterpiece Cuisine has become part of that spirit, and I strongly encourage you as the board to allow that spirit to continue to be part of the community that we all love. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Breckling. I am a member of the community here as well, and I'm sharing my sentiments about the meeting place where Masterpiece Cuisine operates. Masterpiece is what we all call the gathering place to convene each day and keep up with one another. There is a large community of friends that meet there to share stories, laugh, keep up with one another with information and support. We all live in Anthem and we enjoy the time and place to have available to us. It is truly more than just a restaurant. As everybody else has said, it's our Cheers. Okay. And it keeps us in the community and keeps up with one another daily. I speak for many people that feel the same way. Please keep our cherished meeting spot in place, as not having it available will force us all to travel outside our community and disconnect us. We need the connection now. So please keep us here in the community. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Craig Wamson. I'm a resident here since 2017, but a Henderson resident since 1959. But I'm speaking in favor of Masterpiece Cuisine. I think when Masterpiece came around, I didn't think they were going to be very successful, but it turns out they are, and it's a brilliant place. They've done an outstanding job of adopting and making changes and all for the better. People enjoy this place tremendously, but we're a member, my wife and I are a member of about 4 or 5 different clubs up here. And the clubs meet, once a month or whatever, but we meet everybody in the pub 4 or 5 nights a week. We meet so many people there, more than we ever meet in any club anywhere. And you have a strong, strong sense of social being, and everybody's looking out for everybody there. Everybody's concerned about everybody there, but you have a really super strong sense of community in this pub, in this restaurant. And the food is on the way up. It's getting better all the time, and they're always striving to make changes for the better. It's not, they didn't start off, good and get worse, or they started off, so or a little bit on the good side, but they're getting better and better and better as time goes on. And I think their plan is to keep that going. I'm hoping, I've heard rumors they might be open even more days a week, 5 days a week. And I wish it was 8 days a week, but it's a really nice place, and we enjoy it tremendously. I hope you guys vote to keep it going, because we really need the sense of community that we get from this place, and the sense of belonging that we all get from interacting with each other every day. Thank you.
Any others? And just to let you know, Paul McCartney himself said he would show up to our restaurant if it was open 8 days a week.
No comments on. There are no comments online at this time.
We have no one online?
No, not at this time.
We shall move on to the Facilities Director report with Sean Evans.
Hello and good evening, everyone. I'll start with the first project on the screen, which would be the elevator repair that has been completed, and we're done, moved on. Next slide. The fire pump repair, this actually is done. We had the final fire inspection this past Monday, and the fire department signed off on it, so this project is complete. Liberty Outdoor Pool, as you all know, this was replastered and we're fully done and it's open and being enjoyed. We did send about a dozen chairs and lounge chairs in to be restrapped, and those should be back early next week. So then all those chairs will be back on the pool deck. The actual, when we did the pool too, we had to do some deck repairs. As you can see in the bottom, there's some numbers. Those have been repaired at the same time the pool was replastered, so that's done. So the waterfall vault, the permit was approved. I have a copy of it. We're in the process of creating the RFP. I have the first draft on my desk. As we work through that, I'll be able to get ready to send it out probably in the next 2 weeks. For sealed bids, I'm hoping for May, for the May meeting. This is the floor that's right behind us. You really can't see it unless you see the pictures. The new flooring has been ordered. I just got confirmation today that it's been paid for and it should be shipped. So I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks it comes in and then I can schedule the installation. We will send notification out of closure of this room due to the floor install, and I'll find out from the installer how long it'll take. So stay tuned. The window, we all know the window was leaking for quite a while. This project has taken a little bit longer than expected due to a couple setbacks. One was from a dry rotted beam that's underneath that center cover right there. That's all been repaired. The frames, it's hard to see the frames, those have been reinstalled. They were supposed to start installing the glass this week, but then with the bad winds, they've been postponed. I'm hoping to get them out here as soon as Monday and get those glass installed and then get the outside wrapped up. Then they'll move to the inside, finish all the drywall work on all the cleanup, and then I can remove that temporary wall, and then this project will be in the books. This picture is about 2 days old. If you walk down here, I'm not sure who's seen it. This is fully functioning now. The vending machines are in. There are a few kinks we're working out. And Lisa in the back there, she's handling this. And we think, in fact, I think James has a coffee right here. There you go. Yeah. So this is basically done, except for a few kinks we have to work out on the vending machines. Fire panel replacement, this project was about ready to go to sealed bids, but then I found out from the city of Henderson that any area that has an open flame, the city of Henderson now is requiring CO sensors. And we have open flames in the restaurant, and we do have 2 open flames in the center. Those are 2 fireplaces. So things are changing a little bit. We're trying to find out exactly what we need to do from the city of Henderson. I've been on the phone with 2 vendors over this past week, and we're trying to get more information as far as what they're going to require. So this has probably been pushed back at least 2 months. This is moving forward. These pictures are quite about a couple days old. The pictures that I just got this evening, the grass has all been installed on Liberty Courts 1, 2, and 3. We're installing a surface called Pro Bounce. It's the same surface that we have here on Courts 1 and 2 here at Anthem. The way it looks right now, if you were to go up there, it's the grass you see in the center picture, and it's fully covered with sand. And then what they'll do is they'll flood that with like an acrylic epoxy, and then they'll go ahead and refinish after that. So we're thinking about 2 more weeks on those, and then they'll go to the next set of courts, and we believe that's going to be the Anthem courts, which are courts 1 through 6 here. They're going to be working on those. But as we know more, you guys will know more. This is the indoor pool plastering. This project has been approved. We're waiting for the dehumidifier. I believe we have bids here that will be opened. once we get this resolved, we can get this project at the same time the dehumidifier is replaced. And I believe the next slide is going to be for painting of the interior too. Yep, there it is. So when this project takes off, we'll do all three of these: the dehumidifier, the painting of the indoor pool area, and the replastering of the indoor pool. This is the actual, those were the plans for the dehumidifier that were sent out to bid. So it should be right here when we open these bids. That's it. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, and I'm happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Unfinished business, we do not have any unfinished business for this agenda. So we shall move on to new business where action may be taken. The first item on here is the adoption of the amended 2026 main operating budget, listing AEF as revenue. This is part of that board equity fund. Do I hear a motion?
Should I make a comment first?
No, we make the motions
Okay.
first.
I move to adopt the amended 2026 main operating budget, listing AEF as revenue.
And I will second that motion. The first speaker for in discussion is Clara Lau.
The board has previously approved to include AEF in the 2026 budget. So based on the formula that was agreed, Financial Committee has calculated the amount to be $543,008 as an estimate to be included in the 2026 budget. So I recommend the board to approve it. And putting it as revenue is in line with our new AEF policy that has just been approved by the board in December.
Donna, do you have anything? Personally, I'm in agreement with it. I had a good look at it in the office. And as I said, it is assigning funds from AEF to specific projects, current or future projects we know are in existence. So, oh, this is just revenue? Okay, I'm sorry. I shall backtrack that. Thank you. Yeah, this is just the revenue. So I'm sorry. So, Jim, you have anything on that? Going down the line, Michelle? Mayfield?
Is this working?
There you go.
Now it's working. Thank you. Let me tell you my problem with this. Those of you who've been around a while know that every year we have to go through a substantial process to get the members' approval of the annual operating budget. You get a packet in the mail. This is all, you have to respond to it or not respond to it. Then we have an annual members meeting to adopt it. And that process is specified in state regulation. Now, that regulation, in my view, also applies to amendments to the budget. All right? And therefore, we are bypassing the required regulatory process if we adopt this, and therefore I can't vote for it. However, I don't think that's a problem. Budgets are estimates. They are estimates. And we have variances from our budget all the time throughout the year. All right? Therefore, we can use in a change of accounting policy the use of the main operating budget as revenue. Nothing says we can't do that. All right? And that will simply pop out as a variance on the monthly financial reports. So I'm not opposed to the substance of what we're trying to achieve here. I think the Finance Committee's done a good job on this. What I am opposed to is that I think we're violating NRS 116 and we're not following mandated regulatory requirements. And therefore, this particular amendment is probably unacceptable under NRS regulations and is unnecessary. Therefore, I'm going to vote against it because I don't want to see the precedent set it that every time we change our mind during the year, the board has the authority to go through and amend the budget for less than substantial material amounts. And so, once again, I'm going to vote against this, but for process reasons, not because of the substance of what we're trying to accomplish. That's it.
Forrest?
In Nevada, budgets are slightly different. Well, I should say for Nevada HOAs, budgets are a little bit different than a business budget. In Nevada, the budget is to establish the assessment. And once you would only change the budget unless you're going to change the assessment, which is not what we're doing here. So we would save to get a budget approved through the process would, I don't know, cost $5,000 to $10,000, and it adds no insight at all really to what we're trying to achieve. So I would not vote for this either. It's completely superfluous. Again, like Jim said, every budget in the world has a variance column, and this is just a variance to what was budgeted before.
Any other directors?
Forrest, I have a question for you, if you could clarify. Without changing the budget, we would end up with a variance. Can you explain what we would, I know, but for the members, can you explain what would end up with a variance?
Well, the variance would be approximately $500,000. How they arrived at $508, I don't know, but yeah, it would just be you collected more money than you originally budgeted for, and it just goes to the bottom line at the end of the year. That you have certain things to do with it, to deal with the surplus, or maybe that money is spent in the interim. You don't know, but it's not unusual occurrence in corporate accounting. And like I said, in Nevada, the reason the board would get involved in changing a budget would be to change the assessment, which we're not doing here.
Martin, I have an additional comment when it's appropriate.
I want to hear more about the variance. I think that's a direction that we've been down before, so yeah.
Well, the estimated variance is going to be $500,000. If none of that is spent, it drops to the bottom line. So we have a $500,000 surplus, and our bylaws have stipulations on how we treat that surplus. You either return it to the owners by a check, you reduce the next year's assessment by that, or you contribute it to the reserves. There's a bit of a penalty contributing it to the reserves because the IRS considers that taxable income. So they'll take 20% of it. So if you want to donate 100,000 to the reserves, IRS will take 20, so you end up with 80. So it's not a very desirable outcome. You'd be better off to reduce future assessments.
Now, Mayfield, you had something to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to know, was this process reviewed with SCA's general counsel and he issued a legal opinion as to its legality under state regulation?
To my knowledge, no.
Well, given that some of us who've had, look, I've been involved in SCA finances since 2010. And it has consistently been that the annual budget has to go through a process, and any amendments there too have to go through the same process. And we've had multiple attorneys advise us on that. Therefore, this is a deviation of our prior procedures and processes that are required in NRS 116. Therefore, I want to second the comments that Forrest made there. We tried not to duplicate each other, but it's clear to me that this is unnecessary for the reasons Forrest and I have stated, and a possible violation of state regulation that we don't have an opinion from the attorney to justify. Therefore, I'm going to suggest, I can vote no, and to be honest with you, I think as a board member, I have an obligation to vote no in order to establish that I did not vote for an illegal action. But I find it unpleasant and unnecessary that I should have to do that, but do that I will, and I think it's in the fiduciary interest of the homeowners for us to vote no on this.
Well, to follow the state law, we will have to send a revised budget to every household. Then there's going to be we have to give notice of a owners meeting to approve the budget or reject the budget. I don't know if that's 30 or 60 days notice. Oh, just 14? Oh, okay.
Right.
We still got to mail out all this stuff. I think it's $5,000 to $10,000 plus staff time and then arranging the meeting and all that. I don't see the big gains. So.
I talked with Jessica about this briefly yesterday and today. Jessica, do you have a weigh-in from General Manager's office?
So as a reminder, the reason this is on the agenda is it was a recommendation of the Finance Committee, and the board, I believe in January maybe timeframe, had approved for us to draft the amended budget. So that's why it's in front of you today. I would agree that it does have to follow the Nevada statutes, and you would have to go through the same process as you do at the end of every year. And you have to send it out and you have to give notice of the meeting that has been spoken of. I also agree you can make it a variance, but I just want to remind you the reason it's here is because the board had voted to bring it forward, and that the 543,000 came from the average of the last 3 years of revenue for AEF funds. So I just want to provide clarification is all.
I have one more point if nobody else is going to talk.
Well, we kind of know, I'm more or less in agreement with you, Forrest.
Well, if you add 500,000, I forget what they did a draft budget in there. If you put the $500,000 in, then you're passing a budget with a positive $200,000 surplus, which is really net income. Technically, under Nevada law, we can only assess what we spend. So then if we're going to have a $200,000 surplus, we have to go back and reduce the assessment, which is a clerical nightmare. And like I said, it's just completely unnecessary.
So thank you, Forrest. No other comments being forward. Let us vote on this particular issue. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Nay?
Nay.
All those opposed? We move on to item number 2, which is to approve the revised schedule of AEF Board Designated Equity to include the cost adjustments and waterfall vault addition. Revised total, $1,566,523. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the revised schedule of AEF Board Designated Equity Fund to include cost adjustments and waterfall vault addition. Revised total is $1,566,523.
And I will second this one. The first speaker goes to Clara.
I don't really have any comments. It's all detailed in the board book.
Donna?
No comment.
As I seconded it, this is the one I was talking about earlier. Sorry for jumping the gun on that, but this is just adding more money to that board equity fund to cover things that we forgot to add to the list. Sipakowski.
Just for clarification, we're talking about just the vault. Is that correct?
On page 34,
Yeah.
there were 5 updates. The vault is one of them. We increased the estimated cost for the space addition. And then there were 3 areas that we already had a budget for, but we now have estimates on. So we were able to put actual numbers in there. That was the difference between what you approved at the last meeting and today.
Virginia Mayfield, Forrest.
Well, I object to this because I think it's a method to circumvent our surplus regulations. In the interim, we can do it, but at the end of the year, you got to drain the pool and start all over again. You can't save money in the operating fund. Once we change the definition of the AEF collections to immediate revenue, that puts it in a bit different pot as far as the surplus. And there's 2 tests in our CCNRs. The only one that gives us discretion over the surplus is if our assessments are greater than our common expenses. Well, that doesn't happen here. So essentially, we don't have discretion to do this. If we want to do it for June through October, that's fine. But at the end of December, this has to disappear.
It was my impression from Fraser and Dieter, and I'm going to refer this to Clara, and maybe she can refer it to the finance, that we can warehouse monies that are in a board equity fund via Fraser and Dieter's recommendation.
That's right. It has nothing to do with surplus. This is basically setting aside a part of the AEF fund for a list of projects. But the board has a discretion to make changes to this anytime as we see fit. And all of these estimates was put together by Jessica and her team. So we will be glad to, adjust it every so often, but it's amount of money that we put aside that can fund for the projects. Because you have, Forrest, I think you have indicated that there was worry about the facilities not being taken care of and home values go down and all that. But this is really a sure thing that we're putting aside some money here to take care of those projects.
Well, our CCNRs are very clear. If the money we collect is greater than the money we spend, we must return that money. And this is over each year. So you reset the clock every year. If there's an opinion from Fraser and Dieter, I've never seen it. There's been nothing done in writing. I haven't seen their calculations. I submitted calculations and I never received a response to refute those. So that's my position.
We can discuss this at the next executive meeting. And the reason I say that is because there is an opinion from both of our attorneys on this, but we cannot discuss that at this meeting. So.
Well, wait a minute now. The one attorney that I've seen one attorney's letter, it's from 2 years ago, and it does not consider the financial position of FCA today. It's a dated opinion and it doesn't apply. The other one I have been given, and that's I should have received documents like that. I'm a board member and this is the stuff I should be seeing.
We'll make sure you get that.
Martin, may I make another quick comment, please?
Sure.
I'm an old guy. I've been around a while, been a CPA since '73. And I was trained early and often that accountants shouldn't render legal opinions and attorneys shouldn't render accounting opinions. Therefore, Frazier and Dieter's opinion is irrelevant to me. They're not in the business of interpreting state law, and particularly this firm. And so I would tell you that absent a current legal opinion from our general counsel stating that this is both legal and appropriate, I agree with Forrest. It's pretty clear to me that when we have surplus funds, they are supposed to be refunded to the homeowners in one of three ways. And you can't just arbitrarily set aside funds and say, well, we handled it. That's not in accordance with one of those three ways. Okay? So I agree with Forrest's comments. I do not believe that this is an appropriate action by the board. And therefore, just like on the last issue, I'm going to vote against it, not because I'm against the project, but because we got to learn that we can't just violate state law because it's convenient. All right? That's it.
Just want to remind the board that last month, there was 1.1 million approved to go into this board designated equity fund. All that we are doing here is just to refresh the amount to include items that were excluded and some adjustments and on some actual estimates. So this is not really debating whether we should have the fund or not. The fund has already been approved. It's just the amount. Are we going to change it to the 1.5 million, or are we going to leave it at the 1.1 million that was previously approved?
Thank you, Claire.
Well, my position is you can have the fund all you want. On December 31st, it's going to drop down to zero whether you spent the money or not.
Well, hopefully Frazier and Dieter is right. We'll move to the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
Nay.
No.
No.
4-3, it passes. Number 3, the acceptance of the 2025 audit report and letter of representation on internal controls. Do I hear a motion?
I move to accept the 2025 audit report and letter of representation on internal controls.
And I will second the motion. Clara, you will be the first speaker.
I would like to invite, if I can, Guy Raymaker to speak to this because he's one of the key player in on the audit committee that helped to put this report together. And Forrest sent over a long list of issues and questions that I have shared with the audit committee. And I think Guy would be in the best position to address some of these. So Guy, would you please?
All right, thank you for the opportunity to address the board on these topics. Although I will say, when I agreed to join the audit committee 4 years ago, I had two criteria in mind. One is that I felt like I had relevant skills to be able to help out the community in terms of getting the financial statements issued. And the other was I thought it'd be very non-controversial. And I never expected or frankly wanted to address the board on any of these topics, but here we are. All right, so let me just take you through for a minute the basics of SCA's financial statement reporting process, right? It starts with the SCA financial staff, which every month puts together financial statements, which are reviewed then by the finance committee. I found the SCA staff to be responsive and competent. The finance committee then reviews the financial statements every month and meets to discuss them. And then once a year, the audit committee gets involved for the annual financial statement. The people on the audit committee include the finance committee, Clara as the treasurer, and Michelle has joined as an at-large board member. So there are two board members who are on the audit committee and participate in the process from beginning to end. The audit committee was established as an independent body from the board so that the audit committee could do its job without a lot of involvement in politics or anything else, just focus on the facts. In fact, Jim, when you were the treasurer, you were very jealous of the independence of the audit committee.
And may I add, I was the original godfather that promoted the audit committee.
Right. So I know you know that the independence of the audit committee from the board is important. Then we have independent auditors, which in this case is Fraser and Dieter. They were chosen a few years ago in a competitive process. They are a very well respected, nationally, scope auditing firm, and they've done a good job by us. They have a partner who is an expert in HOA accounting who is assigned to our account. One of the things I wanted to make sure everyone understood is, with the exception of the SEA staff and Fraser and Dieter, everybody involved in this process is a volunteer. And collectively, we have decades of experience in financial reporting, taxes, and other relevant topics. The intention of the way this process was supposed to work and has worked every other year is that the audit committee is an independent body, oversees the audit, and the independent auditors then provide their opinion on the results. The board typically has merely agreed to that, made sure that the process that they laid out was followed, and accepted the financial statements without a lot of comment. Now, I think this year has been different because we have two ex-treasurers on the board, and I think they have maybe had a little bit of a challenge with an at-large board member role versus a treasurer role as it relates to the audit. And they've, issued some detailed questions, and frankly, in my humble opinion, have cast some aspersions on the process this year. The biggest issue, which of course you all know if you're following along, is accounting for AEF funds. That gets talked about ad nauseum, right? And I think most of us are all sick of it by now. But one thing you may not know is that in years past, SEA accounted for AEF funds as revenue correctly. And it was actually during the time that Forrest was treasurer that he changed it to do this deferred accounting, right? And so
That's false.
Forrest,
I
I'm
acted
speaking
on
now.
the advice of a CPA, an independent CPA.
Can you let me speak, please? All right, so that change was made, and we all agreed that it had to be changed back to be corrected. When I say all, I mean the finance committee, the audit committee, and Fraser and Dieter all thought that was an error that needed to be corrected. Okay. Now you can kind of see why the independence of the audit committee is important, because if you have a board member who has a vested interest in a particular outcome, it'd be easy for them to try to interfere with the process. Now, Clara has been our treasurer this past year. She's the fourth treasurer I've worked with. I've heard people cast aspersions on her job as treasurer. I think she's a good treasurer. She's collaborative, she's hardworking, but most importantly, she's willing to listen to others and people with expertise. And she doesn't have to always prove that she's the smartest person in the room. And I think she's been good to work with. Now, Forrest and Jim have asked to be involved earlier in the process than is usual. And you could question whether or not that's appropriate. They've asked many detailed questions, many of which they know the answers to. For example, Jim asked how many hours Fraser and Dieter spent on site this year doing the audit. Well, they spent the same number of hours on site as they did when Jim was treasurer, 0, because that's not the way audits are done anymore, right? Audits aren't done with pencils and green eye shades. They're done with computers, and they have a very good site where all the documents are submitted, right? They have a dispersed team that's expert in their areas, but dispersed across the country. Like I said, some of these questions have seemed to have called into question the integrity and the competency of those people involved. And the point I'd like to make to the board, which I think is a very important one, when the process like this is attacked, it reflects on all the volunteers and all the staff involved in the process, and has a detrimental impact on our ability to recruit and retain people that the SEA board needs in order for these processes to occur. We've had an open finance committee member position for a long time. And what I've heard is that one of the issues with trying to recruit people is the dysfunction between the finance committee and the board, okay? And it even goes to Fraser and Dieter, which Jim had told me once had threatened to quit because they found this difficult to work with, right? So all these shenanigans, frankly, have consequences, and you should be aware of that. Now, Forrest sent out an email, as Clara alluded to, at 2:47 a.m. yesterday with a long list of challenging questions in his mind, right? And so we all had to drop what we were doing and, address all of his points. And, and frankly, I would welcome his review. I do welcome his review because he did a detailed review of the financial statements, except rather than being collaborative about it, he said there were numerous material errors. And this quote making the board approval of the financial statements impossible. However, if you look at his actual comments, most of them are pretty tiny amounts, like $20,000 here, $1,500 reconciling item there. This is a $25 million balance sheet. These amounts are clearly immaterial. Now, he did have one thing he was correct about. He pointed out that some of the percentages related to the fully funded reserve study were off. We had also noticed that, and we had provided that weeks ago to Fraser and Dieter to update that. And the draft we got did not have that update made. It will be made. But I think this shows some of the tension between the audit committee's desire to wait until there's a version of the financial statements that are as close as possible to finalize before providing them to the board. If we provide early drafts, I think probably most board members barely want to read the financial statements once, much less multiple times, right? So we try to make sure that we're only providing a draft that is, close to final, but it's still draft. Every page is labeled draft. The other issues that have been raised in Forrest's comments, I would say, are either immaterial, factually wrong, or they're very consistent with the way SCA has always accounted for these items, but he's now calling it into question, and consistent with the years that both Jim and Forrest were treasurer. Some are just his opinion about things, how they should be worded differently, all of which we've taken into account. And when I say we, I mean everyone involved in the process, the entire audit committee, the entire finance committee, Clara, right? So we've reviewed all his questions, and I would tell you there are no material errors, and the issue with the fully funded percentages being corrected, okay? So now we have a choice to make. If you like, I can spend the next 45 minutes taking you through each and every one of Forrest's points one by one and explaining to you why they're not relevant. Or the board can put its trust in the people that you appointed to do this job and accept that the fact that the financial statements are materially correct, Fraser and Dieter's audit is materially correct, and you can go ahead and approve the financial statements. That's up to you. Thank you.
In my letter, I listed a $5.8
Question,
million problem. That's much greater than $20,000.
A question to you, for the corrections that may be or do have to be made, are these Fraser and Dieter corrections, or are these in-office corrections here?
Well, what happens is the final draft of the financial statements is ultimately held by Fraser and Dieter, and they control the document at that point. And so we make recommendations to them where we find errors to fix things. That's what happened with this fully funded reserve issue. There's an email from Mike to them saying they need to fix it. They simply didn't make it in the draft they sent back to us.
Right, so it's out there, it was in the wind, but it didn't appear.
Right.
So you knew about it.
Yes.
Okay, so Fraser and Dieter has a couple of things to do. If a board approves or adopts an audit, changes can
still be made.
Still be made.
I mean, I would say immaterial changes, which is all we're dealing with at this point.
It's already in the loop at this point. So that's one thing that I needed to know. If the big changes that the one that especially that he was looking at,
right?
Which that is a big number.
Yep.
But Fraser and Dieter knows about it. You know about it.
Yes.
So if it's known and it's being changed, it will be changed before we do our taxes. I'm pretty sure Mike Catello is looking for that change as well.
Yep. And, I would add that it's important to go ahead with these financial statements because the next step is to file the tax return. In order to meet the deadlines that are there, and people have been very worried about state law and stuff, we need to continue with the process so that we can get the tax returns filed on time.
Now, our deadline for tax returns is August, not October. Is that correct?
Well, you can file an extension. Yeah.
Okay.
But we should still, we have Fraser and Dieter engaged right now in the tax return. So they have their own work schedule they're managing, right? So in order to make sure that we hit the deadlines, we work with them as to what the timetable we're working under is and when things are going to happen, right? We don't want to lose the team.
Right, and I know you have bi-monthly meetings video with them,
right?
Which is very good that you all set that up.
Yep.
It is moving things forward a lot faster than they've been moving with any firm that we deal with. So it was a good move.
Okay.
Does any other board member have any other questions for Guy?
Call for, no, not for a guy.
Well, for the record, I made a $5 million, I identified a $5.8 million problem, a $1.3 million problem, and another $1.8 million problem, which was not addressed. That's significantly different than the comments that he made about.
You can.
Time on, mic is on. I've worked with Guy, and if there's anyone on the audit committee with the credentials to understand audit procedures, it's Guy Raymaker. And I have relied upon his advice and counsel whenever I've had a role in it. And Guy and I have always worked well together, in my opinion, okay? So I just want to say that there's a shortage of other people on the audit committee with what I would call audit background. The rest of them have no background or tax background. So
Primarily
I think what Guy says should be given additional weight, Martin.
Thank you. And I was told coming into this that if Guy thought something was big and that we should not approve the audit, he'd let us know. I asked point blank, is there anything big? And he says, nothing that can't be corrected in office. It's all, Lisa can correct every bit of it, except for the thing that they already know about, which is that very AEF, not the AEF, but the reserve fund amount that was noted by Forrest. So
You
it's
approve
good that
things
you all
after
talk.
they're corrected, not before.
And Michelle, you have something.
I didn't hear Forrest's last comment. Forrest, what was your last comment?
I said you approve of work, excuse me. You don't approve of work before the corrections are made. You approve it after the corrections are made.
Michelle.
I just wanted to let the folks that have chosen to attend today know that I am not sitting here uninformed on this subject. As Guy mentioned, I am part of the audit committee. I am not an expert, so I 100% rely on the those that are part of the audit committee and the input. I have joined the Fraser and Dieter calls, and I am very comfortable of what is going on. And thank you and the audit committee for your volunteer, because we couldn't do it without you.
Thanks.
Do you have anything, Donna? Do you have any comment? This is the comment period.
I do have a comment. The board received this audit less than a week before this open board meeting. The audit contains several identified errors by some of the board members. In my view, the audit should be corrected before the audit is accepted. Under NRS, we do have 210 days to accept the audit, as sufficient time remains to address the necessary correction. As a board member, I would have wanted to prefer to meet or confer with the audit committee and or the auditors so that the full board could have reviewed, discussed, and their concerns and questions or the inaccuracies prior to the acceptance. Maybe this is something we should look at in the future. For this reason, I was going to vote no, but after hearing Guy talk to us about the process, I will vote yes.
Thank you. And as I said, the guy had informed us coming in that if there was anything really glaring that really had to be a hot issue, that he'd put his foot down on it too. And he's not doing that. He is saying that we should adopt it. Fraser and Dieter is well aware of what's going on. And next week he has a meeting with Fraser and Dieter anyway to make sure these corrections are going forward. Being that my vote, I came in here not knowing how I was going to vote, and my vote will be yes on this as well, based on that information.
Martin, may I suggest we let Guy sit down if there's no specific questions?
Well, I was kind of watching him shift his weight from one side to the other, trying to figure out which knee is the best one.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Guy.
you. It's always nice when we can get one of our committees to come in and actually give us a report. So,
Call for the vote?
No, not that. Martin, is it now appropriate to have the general comments from the members of the board?
oh, I thought we just did that. We can do that. You have more comment?
You want to say anything else? Start down here, I guess.
Well, I just find it astonishing that a board would approve of something with multi-million-dollar errors in it. That is just really out of the scope of my understanding.
Could I have the slide on, that I submitted back before the agenda review meeting on the requirements? There we go. Yeah, that's the one. My concerns are different than Forrest's. First of all, I would like to make a correction to what Guy said. When I was the treasurer, and it was really the first year of the audit, Fraser and Dieter did have on-site personnel come in, and they were present to do what is commonly referred to as compliance testing. They reviewed actual documents. It was not done 100% remote. Now, we live in a brave new world, and I got that, where artificial intelligence and private equity investment in CPA firms is being discussed everywhere from the Securities and Exchange Commission through the State Board of New York, which is really the big kahuna in town. And I would like just to take a moment to express what my principal concerns are. First of all, this is the definition of a correction of a prior period errors that was adopted in 2020, not by us, not by the state, but by the CPAs, okay? First of all, if comparative financial statements are presented, all effective prior periods must be related to the correction error's impact. Now, one of the periods that this correction relates to is a period of a prior auditing firm, Gary Porter. And nowhere is that described in the footnotes, nor is his approval to include an adjustment of his statements in there. Secondly, the cumulative effect of the error on periods prior to those presented in the adjusted against the opening balance of retained earnings is in the earliest period presented. We don't have any of that. But lastly, we have this what's called big R and little r. And big R requires filing a form 4.02 AK if you're reporting to the Securities and Exchange Commission, which we're not. And a little r says that we can do it with basically a lot less disclosure. I'm not sure whether this is a big R or a little r. No, not right now, please. I get my turn, okay? Now, I have a problem, too, with the fact that what I consider an illegal action was taken by the treasurer that prohibited all the members of the board to having access to information. That is required under NRS 116. Now, we've got an attorney's opinion that in my opinion is a political
We
opinion.
do not discuss attorneys' opinions, only at executive
Oh,
meeting.
yes, we can because it's material to the audit.
He said
If
we
you want to
cannot
shut this
discuss.
off and participate in further cover-up of the problem, that's your discretion. But now the problem is that if we had received updates and drafts in a timely manner as required under NRS 116, none of this would have come up to a last-minute controversy. All right? Now, in terms of remote audits, the world's changed, and I got that clearly. But we didn't have a single person show up on site this year during the audit. I have received a response from staff, which I consider accurate, that no compliance testing was done on site. Therefore, I don't know how they could issue a letter on internal controls. This whole process could have been and should have been reported by the audit committee in a timely manner to all members of the board instead of kept under wraps. And I can assure you, as the author of the original finance committee, audit committee, it was never the intention for the audit committee to replace or supplant the responsibility of the board, but to be its investigative agent and report issues as they came up. And that wasn't done this year. And therefore, any criticism about board members who are raising this after we were excluded from information, which we requested as early as January. Repeat, as early as January, then again in February, then again in March, put us in a position that we got final, or what I'm now believing is semi-final audit reports at the 11th hour. And that's unfair to board members who have a fiduciary responsibility to oversee the audit process.
And it still hasn't been released to residents. It's not on the board book.
And it still has not been
It's
released.
one of the
to
most
residents.
important documents of the association
let's,
that's in hiding.
That's,
Well, I'll finish up quickly. Therefore, I think there have been a number of errors in process, in compliance with state law, that could have and should have been addressed. The financial statements still should need some correcting, and therefore I think our accepting of it, and by the way, we don't approve them, we accept them, is premature. Therefore, I move that the acceptance of the finance committee and the audit committee and the auditors' audited financial statements, letter on internal controls, be postponed until the new board is seated after May the 1st. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll call Guy Raymaker to answer any questions, or do you have any comment on?
I'd like to know about little r and big R.
Yeah, I was glad to see you put it up there because I had a lot to do with creating the idea of a little R restatement. But the fact is, you're correct. If you have a material error in an individual period, then you have to have a restatement, what's called a big R restatement. What we have is a process of the way we did AEF was not material in any individual period presented. However, correcting it created a cumulative impact that would have been material. So you can't just run it through the current year to get to the right balance sheet amount because that would have created a material error in the current year. So the way we addressed it is we corrected the opening balance of the first balance sheet presented, which is effectively, I think, what Jim was getting at. So on his comment about the other auditing firm, you only need to get their approval or permission if their report is being included in the financial statement. So let's say, for example, they had audited 24 and Fraser and Dieter had audited 25, and we're presenting 24 and 25 financial statements, and we're correcting 24, which is their year, okay? then their report, as in addition to Fraser and Dieter's report, would appear in the financial statements, and you can't change their years without getting their permission. In our case, the other auditing firm way predates any periods that we're presenting, so we don't need their permission because their audit report is not included. That's the way it works.
Now, I've got questions. Now, Fraser and Dieter, having been on video meetings with you basically every 2 weeks in the last few months, I felt that was kind of like them being on site, and that was and Meg Hampton's on the East Coast, and so she was spending time with you on these issues.
Yeah.
And that was 2-hour meetings that she's been in with you, going through these numbers and these audits and these things, and how to go backwards and do that correction, which now I'm learning you did that very correction that was being.
Yeah, we corrected the opening balances.
Okay. So that was done.
Yeah, so all the years presented are correct, because what we did is we pushed the error back to the very beginning of the first balance sheet. Therefore, 24 is correct, as if it had always been the policy. 25 is correct, and every balance sheet is correct.
I'd like to ask a question of Ray. Ray, wasn't part of the correction due to the 23 report also?
I think there was 23 we're also doing the wrong way, but it doesn't need to be. We don't present 3 years of financials, we only present 2. So by correcting the opening balance for whatever the cumulative impact from the time the error originated up until the opening balance of 24, which would have been 12/31/23, that's been reflected in the opening balances.
I'd like to ask you another question, please.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm more concerned about the footnote disclosure than I am about what was done. I would like to have seen some reference in there that the adjustment to the opening balance was partially incurred as a result of the presentation in 23. So it's clear where the correction is starting from. And without that, I just personally, and we can always agree to disagree, I think the footnote disclosure is a little light.
Yeah. Okay. So I drafted the footnote disclosure. I'll tell you that. And
I know that.
I purposely made it light because it's one of those things, like the more you disclose, in some ways, the more questions you can raise, right? So I find it's usually better, just like with legal matters, sometimes short and sweet is better than like too lengthy. But I mean, that is a matter of personal opinion, right? I mean, I drafted it, Fraser and Dieter approved it, the rest of the audit committee looked at it, gave comments. But, 2 people could disagree about how much disclosure or how little disclosure to have. It has, I will tell you, it meets all the requirements for disclosure. There's nothing that's like missing that it needs to have. Whether you want to add other things or not, that's a different issue.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for the board's time. It is time to move on with this. I will tell you that some statements were made about our attorney. The board will get into that in the executive session. And I don't have the CC&Rs here, but there were some specific references to that. So right now, there's a secondary motion on the floor besides the primary motion that basically is a motion to postpone this until a new board is seated. That's basically what the motion was. So I'm going to call for any discussion on that. All those in favor of that particular motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay? Nay. That motion is defeated. The original motion on the floor is to move to accept the 2025 audit report and letter of representation on internal controls. It was seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
We haven't even discussed the letter of representation of internal controls.
We had ample time to discuss anything that was within that motion. All those in favor signify by
It should
saying
be
aye.
a separate vote.
Aye.
Well, for the record, there's a number of errors in
That was
the
not in the motion.
representation letter, even though it's already been signed.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
It is passed. Moving on to number 4. A complaint from Nona Tobin related to open meeting requirements, executive actions without due process, and unlawful delegation of authority to the manager. The board acknowledges receipt of a complaint from Nona Tobin. However, we do not view it with any level of merit. There has been no secret meeting of any kind by this board. The GM review has been held in executive meetings, and no unlawful authority has been given or assumed by the general manager. We will respond accordingly if necessary. Opening of sealed bids. We have a Liberty Center dehumidifier replacement opening bid. I believe Artiega has the bids. Do you have a copy of that? And you were interested, you can have a copy. Yes. No, you can have it. That's the secretary's copy. Oh. Just in case comes up with these minutes.
Okay, the first bid is from MCore Mechanical. It's the same company that did all of our air conditioning work a year and a half ago. Their total amount is $228,740. Second bid is from a company called Pipeworks Mechanical. Their grand total is $248,660.
So Sean, you'll take these back and you'll return with a BAI at the next board meeting? Is that
Yeah,
the plan?
so I'll take those back. Julian and I will work on leveling these two bids, figuring out the difference, and then I'll have a BAI ready for board approval at the next meeting.
Thank you, Sean. So what happens is we open the bids at this meeting and the bids are brought back next meeting for a final review and voted on. Sean makes the strong recommendation, we just vote on it. Financial and legal reports. Review and accept the unaudited financial report for January of 2026. I move to accept the unaudited financial report for January of 2026. Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, you make a comment at this point?
Turn on, there we go. The original intent was for the financial statements to be reviewed the month after the month of the close. In other words, January should have been reviewed in March, and it wasn't ready for review. And I'd like to hear a report from the general manager as to why we're running behind on our reviews.
GNS, I'll let general manager take it from here, but we just got done discussing this last week, and Global North Star and the account identifier codes were just finished not 2 weeks ago. And it's working just fine, but it's taken time to catch up with those reports. So that's the first thing, is that GNS is now working, but there's more to it than that. So Jessica, I'll turn that over to your management team at this point.
Thank you.
Lisa has
Thank
one.
you, yes. I have our controller coming up. This is the same update that's been provided, but Lisa's going to go ahead and be able to give you some more details on it.
Sorry. Okay. They are different. A lot of it is North Star. Setting up the codes, having things run in from our different avenues, fitness, activities, membership, and then our GL. We had to develop the reports. I had a shell of a report, and anytime I added an account, I had to make sure it was in the report so that they all balance. Starting in January, we had to redo our reconciliations because North Star brings it in different than BMS did. We've now got most of our reports the way that we need to see them, going back and forth with North Star. They've developed a bunch of stuff for us. February right now is about 75% done, and we look forward to it being a lot easier and a lot simpler, closing the months and getting us back on track.
Thank you. Do you have anything for that? Anything to add, Jessica? No?
A quick question, Martin. Did if you cut through the language, is the delay resulted to the delays in the implementation of the Global North Star? And is it ready for prime time or isn't it?
This is something that we discussed in the office not long ago, and I'll start that and I'll hand it over to Jessica. But I wish we owned the copyrights on all the stuff that we wrote for Global North Star. When Lisa first got that program, she had very few account identifier codes. She had to build the entire thing up from the ground and make it work at the same time, which was an amazing feat. If we owned the copyrights on that, we'd probably get pretty rich, but we don't own the copyrights on that. So our problem, our fault. But yes, it is up and running. It is ready for prime time, according to what I've heard from Lisa. She has it working properly. She has some tweaking to do. She'll add some more account identifier codes as things come up. But right now, she's getting pretty good at that. Jessica?
Yeah, I'll comment on that. So it originally was just a factor of having to run two systems last year. And I think January 1, we knew, we promised, and we will speak to it and show anyone who wants to see it. We have been very transparent. January 1, everything is in Global North Star with one exception, and that is compliance. So to answer the question, I think a lot of it stemmed from we had made sure going into January 1 that the reports mimicked as far as the look and feel of the reports you see from the prior system. January 1, we made sure, as a reminder, the prior periods, all through December 31st, were all being done in the prior system, and a journal entry was being put into the GNS, the Global North Star system. Well, now, January 1, everything's being run out of Global North Star. So what it did was you can run an accounts receivable aging report, and instead of getting this is how much is owed in assessments, this is how much in late fees, this is villas, this is that. It just wanted to pull everything into one number. So we had to go back behind the scenes and make sure we're flagging the right behind the scenes markers. And we started with significant open tickets with Global North Star. The other day, I counted 18 back and forth emails with Global North Star. They are very responsive. But at the end of the day, we are now to 8 open work orders. And once we can get through this process, I agree that the financials are late, but we've communicated as much as we can that we're doing everything we can behind the scenes to try to get them caught up and prepare the best set of financials we can.
Thank you, Jessica.
One response to the general manager. I want to be clear. My criticism is not of the accounting staff. I think they're doing a good job in very difficult circumstances. My criticism is my ongoing concerns about where we are and when we will ever see daylight at the end of the implementation of the Global North Star system, that the problems that have now caused it to be almost a year late will finally be resolved.
I'm pretty sure that Lisa will have us all caught up by the next board meeting.
One question. We're not running any parallel systems, are we?
No.
Nope, the only thing we are doing in both systems is updating when a brand new resident moves in and their mailing address, so compliance can continue to run out of the old system. If you're going to send a violation letter, you want to make sure you send it to the current homeowner. That is the only thing taking place in the old system for the inspections, compliance. If I can answer, Jim, I agree, everything has taken time because what we did is we said, well, now we have one system and one software to take over from the 8, 9, 10 different software systems we had. But the caveat to that is the 8, 9, 10 systems we had were all very particular in their field. Work orders is one of them. What activities was using was one of them. And we went to Global North Star, which is one system, decent at all of these things, but maybe not perfect at any of them. And we're trying to do everything we can to form fit these and mold these to our needs. We've come a long way. I still think we have more to do. We even said this year is going to be the year for enhancements of everything we have to make it what we need it to be at Sun City Anthem. And I couldn't agree more that we are building this platform for them because Nevada law is one of the hardest ones to follow. And once they have this down, they're going to be able to go anywhere with it.
Thank you, Jessica. Where we're at with this is it has been moved and seconded to review, accept, and the unaudited financial report for January 2026. Is there any director that we have not heard from that has comment?
Yeah, I'm voting no against this because it has this board designated equity account, which we are not allowed to establish under our CCNRs.
Well, if we can establish an ASC 606, I think we can establish anything else. So
what did you say?
That has nothing to do with the unaudited financial reports. Nothing.
It's fundamental to the financial reports.
Well, thank you for your comment. Any other comments from any of the directors? The motion is to move to accept the unaudited financial report for January 2026. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
No.
It is passed. The second thing in the financial legal is to review, accept the legal quarterly litigation disclosure statement for resale package.
I move to accept the legal quarterly litigation disclosure statement for the resale package.
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve or to review, accept the legal quarterly litigation disclosure statement for resale package. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? There being none, it is passed unanimously. We move on to the committee action reports where action may be taken. These are in the board book, and they are attached.
I move to accept the committee reports.
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve or accept the committee reports. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? It is passed. Committee action items where action may be taken. The first one is the ad hoc work group restaurant contract. Approve the restaurant lease addendum, a 1-year extension, service 5 days per week, and potential pilot program for table side services.
I move to approve the restaurant lease addendum, 1-year extension, service 5 days per week, and potential pilot program for tableside services.
I second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the restaurant lease addendum for a 1-year extension with service 5 days per week and potential pilot program for table services. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? It is passed with one up, one opposed. Now, you don't get to go home yet. We put seatbelts on those chairs for a reason. Okay. Strategic Planning Work Group, appoint Michael Gallegos, Michael Messenger, Tony Patre, Stowe Shoemaker to a 2-year term beginning May 1st, 2026 through April 30th, 2028.
I move to appoint Michael Gallegos, Michael Messenger, Tony Pater, and Stowe Shoemaker to a 2-year term beginning May 1st, 2026 through April 30th, 2028.
So moved.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? It is passed. Number 3, approve the Finance Committee's amended charter.
I move to approve the Finance Committee's amended charter.
And I'll second that motion. Is there any discussion?
I have a question, and maybe Guy can answer it. I read both the current charter and the amended charter. Can someone summarize in a few words what the difference is?
Mike, do you want it?
To summarize in a few words, it was updated to reflect the latest board-approved policy manual for governance committees. So it's in accordance with the latest changes that you guys approved for that.
Thank you.
Well, that's my same comment. We so frequently get something that they put it in the board book and say, approve this. There's no reason given why a change was made and what the changes are. So we're just sitting here after doing our research, which is just not right.
Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? It is passed.
Well, I missed my eye there and there.
Approve the amended EPSG charter. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the amended EPSG charter.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? It is passed, unanimous. We now move on to item 18, which is the acknowledgement of the general manager's approved expenses paid approved in the month of March 2026, which will appear in the monthly agenda where no action is required. Does anybody need me to read the policy on this?
No.
These are in the board book. They are attached. Do I hear a motion? No, we don't need a motion. We are just acknowledging them. Acknowledgement of general manager's approved expenses paid approved for Pinnacle and Villa Duplex neighborhoods in the month of March 2026, which appear on the monthly agenda where no action is required and none happened this month. Board action items. The first one is to approve the construction and installation of 6 storage cabinets for the green room at the Anthem Center from wood chips in the amount of $8,525 to be paid by the AEF fund. I'll make this motion. I move to approve the construction and installation of 6 storage cabinets for the green room at Anthem Center from wood chips in the amount of $8,525 to be paid by the AEF fund.
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Will these cabinets be used and why are they needed?
They will be used for storage. A few of them will go to activities, and then we have a couple clubs that are in Anthem Center that could use a couple as well.
Well, when we went on our tour, which I thought was very useful, we identified a whole bunch of cabinets throughout our facility that weren't being utilized at all. So why are we building additional ones?
I think the more we can get, the better. We have a full assessment of all of those going on right now to determine who's using them, but this specific, half of these are going to be for the activities department, and they're much larger than the small ones that you see throughout the center in the credenzas.
So these are in the green room over at Independence?
No, the green
No,
room is
right
here.
here.
Oh, the green room
Where
here.
our executive session
Okay,
is.
okay. Any other discussion by any other board member? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed?
Nay?
It is passed. Board action item, acknowledgement of action taken outside of meeting for the approval to purchase 6 safety harness kits, 6 50-foot leading edge cable SLR, and 5 reusable roof anchors. The equipment is to be purchased from Amazon and Bishop Lifting in the amount of $4,380.06 to be paid from the AEF fund. I will make this motion. I acknowledge the action taken outside of meeting for the approval of purchase of 6 safety harness kits, 6 50-foot leading edge cable SLR, and 5 reusable roof anchors. The equipment is to be purchased from Amazon and Bishop Lifting in the amount of $4,380.06 to be paid from the AEF fund.
I second the acknowledgement.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? It is passed unanimous. Third item, approve the installation of one Riviera style awning at the Anthem Center to set above the bench on Tennis Court 1. The installation is to be completed by All Pro Awning of Las Vegas, the amount of $1,650 to be paid from the AEF fund.
I move to approve the installation of one Riviera-styled awning at Anthem Center to be set above the bench on Tennis Court number 1. The installation to be completed by All Pro Awning of Las Vegas in the amount of $1,650 to be paid from the AEF fund.
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? It is passed unanimous. Fourth item, approve the purchase of 11 additional signage TVs for SCA campus meeting room displays and automated digital content signage for a total of $6,715.26 to be paid from the AEF funds.
I move to approve the purchase of 11 additional signage TVs for Sun City campus meeting room displays and automated digital content signage for a total of $6,715 to be paid from the AEF fund.
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. What is the useful life of each of these board sets?
These are TVs.
Oh, are we on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
Yeah, that'll be number 5. That's a good question for that one. Any other discussion for the purchase of the TVs for SCA campus meeting rooms? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? It is approved, unanimous. And number 5, approve the purchase of 14 cornhole board sets for use by the bocce Cornhole Club. The sets will be purchased through Cornhole Games USA in the amount of $3,935.67 to be paid from the AEF funds.
Clara.
I move that we disapprove this purchase on the grounds that this represents disposable items that should be treated as other than capital items. Is there a second?
You mean they're not eligible for the asset enhancement fee?
Yep.
Okay. I'll second that.
Is there a second?
There was
I
a
was
second
waiting
down
for it.
here.
For a second.
Okay. Can you repeat the amended motion? There wasn't? Oh. He moved to disapprove.
It has been moved to disapprove the purchase of 14 cornhole board sets for the use by the budget.
Well, I think he means disapprove the purchase from the AEF fund.
Correct.
Clarify.
These are supplies, not capital items, is my opinion. I'm not against purchasing them. I just don't think it's appropriate for it to be capitalized. And then we have to account for them in the reserve study. I mean, this is going the wrong direction from what we said we wanted to do related to reserve items.
Well, the motion chart has one thing, but this is a motion to disapprove based on the use of the AEF fund, which would strictly be a no vote on the motion that's on the motion chart. We will have to vote on the motion that's on the floor, and if that fails, we go back to the original motion.
Martin, may I?
You may.
An original motion has not been made yet, so it does not stand. That's just a guide, so if that motion is not warranted, that's okay. But I just want to clarify, so it's being denied because of the use of AEF, not being denied in general.
That's my position.
What's your position?
We're in favor of buying it, but just not with AEF funds.
Right.
I oppose to approve this at all because this is an individual club requesting to purchase supply for them. It will be precedent setting. Once we approve it for this club, we have to do it for all the other clubs. And I do not think we can afford to do that.
I agree
I'd
with
like to make a
Clara.
motion.
I mean, I would like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Donna.
Go ahead. Did you make a comment?
Yeah, and I think it's the same call. I agree with Clara in that I think we have to have more discussion on this. And it's specifically because I sit on the CLC committee is that if we are purchasing, if we purchase equipment for one club, that's going to open up the door for us to
Right.
purchase equipment for every single other club. So we better prepare for that.
And I concur with Clara and Michelle on that. It's my understanding all the clubs have always paid for their own items. So in this case, I would be voting no.
And I'm going to go along with Mayfield on this. There's really no place to store those. We didn't get to that part. The tennis equipment is all stored. Everything is full over there. So
I have a question. I don't know if Joan can answer it. Are these being purchased just for the club itself, or are these being used by all of the residents?
All the residents.
The club is the one requesting it, so we could certainly go back and ask. However, that's going to be dependent on the vote here. If the current vote on the table, which is not opposed to purchasing them, just opposed to the method in which is listed for AEF. So that motion has to continue. Let's see if it passes or not. And then if it doesn't, then you can put forth a motion to deny due to the reason that this is a club request. And based on the information I'm understanding is the association does not typically pay for club specific items. It would come out of their budget.
Thank you.
the first motion on the floor is that AEF funds shall not be used to make this purchase. That is basically, to sum up your motion, Mayfield, would that be a good summation? That AEF funds not be used to purchase bocce cornhole club equipment. And it was seconded. So that is basically the motion on the floor. All those in favor of not using AEF funds to make this kind of a purchase signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Well, the motion on the floor was just about AEF.
Can I understand, is that all in favor or is there opposition so we know for the minutes?
I'd like to clarify, if we're voting no, can we introduce another motion?
Yes.
Yes. We've decided what not to spend on it.
So to clarify, are you all in favor of the original motion?
The original motion would be to approve the purchase of 14.
No, it was never read.
Oh.
So the original motion is disapprove as AEF funds should not be used for this.
That is correct.
Is that unanimous? Clara?
Raise your hands. All those in favor,
Okay,
signify.
6-1. Okay, that
Wait a minute.
passes 6-1.
Is it where I want it to be? We're not going to buy it with that. Thank you. All right, then I vote for.
I move to not approve the purchase of the 14 cornhole board sets for the use by the Bocce Cornhole Club, period.
I second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to not approve the purchase of 14 cornhole board sets for use by the Bocce Ball Cornhole Club. Any other discussion about that? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. That is 5-2. So we will not be purchasing anything for the clubs. We are now back to member comment periods.
Martin, may I make a clarifying comment about what my intent was?
Well, you can.
Look, we buy supplies for the clubs all the time. Billiard balls, pick one, all right? And I think we have an obligation to do that. The question is, which budget's it going to come out of? I think the cornhole games, God knows they're becoming popular. And there is I did not mean to object to this purchase. I simply meant to object to that it should come out of AEF and be a capitalized item.
What we can do, since it was moved to motion, is we can bring it back at the next meeting with a different expenditure method included in the motion. The motion has to contain where the money is going to come from.
Martin?
Yes.
You certainly can bring it back to the next meeting. I just want to point out that it was just voted on 5-2 to deny it altogether, not related to the accounting method in which you're going to pay for it.
Right.
So for the sake of administration and housekeeping, this would not come back to the next meeting. The response to the club would be that it's a club purchase and it was denied by the board as it stands based on motion number 2 with the 5-2 vote.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. We're back to member comment period. Members are permitted to comment on any association issue. The president may interrupt or terminate a member's statement if it is personal, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or exceeds the time limit. In accordance with the resolution establishing parliamentary procedures adopted by this board in April 2012, attacks on character, veracity, integrity, or intelligence, or other individuals will not be permitted. Members online, click in the Act hand icon or write in the chat if you would like to make a comment. Comments will not be accepted from owners in advance. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes.
Right.
Bruce?
This will be quick. Bruce Stanley, 1656 Warrington Drive in Henderson. Couple things. These expenses, I mean, there's a capitalization limit. I don't know what it was. I thought it was 5,000, but we can't just, then we'll have to start putting pool noodles on there, and that's a big, rebuying the pool noodles seems to be a big issue at the pool. But this is a more important subject. Clara knows by looking at my shirt that I visited her hometown last month, and so I missed the meeting. So I look at the meeting minutes, and it really doesn't tell me a whole lot. And I understand that legally we have our meeting minutes of what was approved and what was disapproved and who was there and who was not there. But one of the problems I have is I don't want to go back and listen to a 3 or 4 hour board meeting. Okay, I've done that. I've done it twice, and I promised my wife I wouldn't do it anymore. But I think that the transcription service, system is not very expensive. In fact, there's one running right below you guys on an iPad. And I think that we could use something. I'm not interested in anything that would be legally acceptable, but I'd like to be able to scan through the meeting dialogues and understand what was discussed. Because there's a lot of things that happens during the discussion I don't hear. Or I can't read it unless I go to the 4 hour meeting. So I'd just like to see if we could I know it's been discussed occasionally, but we can get a fairly quick and easy system on an iPad that would just record everything, and you can see what was written. You don't know exactly maybe who made the speech, but I just want to know what was said. That's all.
The current.
I think with a lot of the meetings that I'm on, AI note taker just does it. So is that something we could just implement, or does that not work here?
We
We
do
have
have,
transcripts of the meetings.
yes, I've shared that. We do have transcripts of the meeting, the hard part about it, and it is available upon request. The hard part with it is, as you mentioned, it doesn't dictate. You'd have to have a separate microphone and a separate camera for each individual body for it to dictate who spoke. So it would say Sun City Anthem every time someone on the panel spoke, and then the only time it would differentiate is if it were someone online. So I think that was the only reason that it was a little more difficult, but there is a transcription that I can send you anytime you want it.
We have comments online. The first one was through the chat from Heather Hudson. Why can't we trust our experts and also respond to board members' questions? How collaborative is it to ignore or not respond to a board member's questions when it was stated the board member found errors and also made some good points, even if it takes 45 minutes? Also, there have been errors found in these statements, even though all the experts have prepared and reviewed the documents. And as Jim stated, how collaborative is it to keep information from other board members? How can Guy specifically say he welcomes a board member's review and then state he won't respond to the board member's comments or questions after that review? Is that considered collaborative? And then we have David Stroud. Can you turn his mic on, please?
Hello, can you hear
Yes.
me? Hey, I wanted to thank the board for approving the additional members to the strategic planning work group. Now that we are fully staffed, I anticipate us moving post haste to accomplish the goals and objectives that we've identified and the board has approved. So I thank you again.
There are no other comments online.
I wanted to address the written comment that was online. The information from the audit committee that was not shared were the footnotes which were requested. And our attorney weighed in on that. That was mentioned earlier. The attorney read our bylaws and found a reason to not share those. The first one being that it was created as an independent committee, independent from management and the board. And they share what they share when they want to share it. Was it relevant at the time? No, it wasn't a finished project. Did the information belong to the association? No, it belonged to a private committee. So these are things that the attorney and I had talked about. So
There's no such thing as a private committee.
So
They work,
that-
they're a subunit of the
that being
board.
said, the BPM does say it's an independent committee. Anyway, go.
David Berman, Valley View Village. I just want to elaborate a little on what Bruce said about getting transcripts of meetings and then the comments that followed. Very easy to do with today's technology. Very frequently, tracking the investments that we have, I listen to conference calls online from different companies. I heard one this morning in association with a quarterly earnings report from a company. And within 2 hours, the written transcript was online of what was said during that call, including the name of the person who made the respective comments. So I think if we explore this, we should be able to do it. A video of the meeting is made available pretty quickly, much more quickly than it used to be. But it's still a challenge if you want to go through that thing and find what you're looking for. And having a written transcript of what was actually said at the meeting, I think is very feasible if we put our heads together and work on it.
James, do you have any research on that? I mean, Richard.
Yes, we have done research on this topic. It is available that we can get it's not necessarily AI. Well, it is sort of like AI, but it's actually doing a transcription service. It has to identify the user who's speaking. Usually it's done via a very visible name tag, or the person says their name previously before they say anything inside the meeting. Alternatively, the third option you have is everybody's dialed in to the go-to under their username. So when their microphone picks up their name, it'll transcribe under their name. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Anyone else under member comment period before I go to Jessica who has a final comment? Jessica.
I know we don't have that many people here, so I should have said this earlier, but I just want to let you know we are working with the city of Henderson to have a town hall that will be broadcasted out and communicated out to everyone related to the roundabouts. When they notified us that they were coming to the last board meeting, we didn't have much advance notice of what they were coming for. They just said they were bringing their public works department. And then matter of fact, they brought with them their slides, but didn't present them to us beforehand. So I don't think the residents were given ample notice to attend and understand what they were trying to develop. So we are working with the city of Henderson now, and once we establish a date that we can work with them, we will bring a town hall here so the residents have the ability to understand what it is they're trying to bring forward and get any concerns voiced and any questions answered.
All right. The next board meeting is Coffee with the Board, which is tomorrow morning at 8:30. From 8:30 to 10 o'clock. It's over here. We usually have coffee and muffins they're just put out. We don't have to buy them. The main meetings, the organizational meeting will be May 4th at the Delaware Room. This missed the counting of the ballots, which is on the 1st. The agenda review will be May 21st at the Arlington Room. The executive session will be in the Green Room on the 26th. And the regular board meeting will be May 28th at the regular time, 1:30 here in the Delaware Room. There being nothing else to put on the calendar today, we shall stand adjourned.